So, how can you let go of the fear that there is never enough? This is a very, very common question. And it's a very important question because most of us have some fear around not enoughness. It might be that there's never enough money or that there's never enough of me. Sometimes it feels like whatever I do, I'm not enough. And if I'm not enough, I can't be enough to make enough money. So it ties in with the never enough money because you get an identity of yourself as being a not enough person, and then not enough shows up everywhere in your life. And it raises a question because how could you ever be enough? We say, well, you are enough, and I can say that, and I know that that's true, but how can you really be enough? Because there's always more. And we know that as human beings, we know that we can always expand. Once we have something, we're usually looking for something else. We want to have a new experience. We want to create something better. We want to contribute something more. We don't just sit on our sofa and say, oh, I'm enough now. I've got enough. That's pretty much the end of your life. So we live in a world where there is always more. And yet we're tortured by this feeling that there is never enough. And then we get to experience there is never enough. So your question is really about how do we navigate this world where we can feel there's not enough and there's always more, and the not enough feeling manifests not enoughness. Okay? This is one of the big questions of human life. And I would say probably every single human being experiences it. And I think the first thing that I want to say, the easiest thing, and the thing that has made it easiest for me, is to simply accept that at one level it's just true. I'm not enough because there's always going to be more. And that there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with me being small. There's nothing wrong with me wanting to be better at something than I am at the moment. So me being not enough, I'm not making enough money at the moment. All that means is I'd like to make more money. It doesn't mean I'm a bad person. It doesn't mean there's something wrong with me. It doesn't mean there's something wrong with my life or I've done something wrong. It is simply where I am now and where I would like to be. There's a gap. There is such a freedom if you can just admit what you're feeling, say, yeah, it's not enough. But the freedom comes when the tricky part in your question is you're talking about the feeling of there is never enough. Let's have a look at what happens in your psychology, which is really actually in your energy, when you say there is never enough. The way I see it, everything that we think and feel is a command into consciousness or into the universe energy. It's like an instruction for your life. So if you think, let's say you think, I want to create a business, a successful business, there's a command, there's a request, or there's an instruction going out into the world saying, please give me business ideas and business instructions and business opportunities. And you start to see business things all over the place. If you say, if you're not interested in business at all, it's never going to be in your energy field. It's not really going to be there. So when we think about something, we're creating a connection in the universe with that thing that we're thinking about. And that changes your energy. You start to receive the energy instructions for that thing. If what you're thinking is there is never enough, you look at your life and you look at your history, it's like, oh, there's never been enough. In all my life, I never felt that I had enough money. I was always really on the edge. When you say there is never enough, that is a statement, that is a command into the universe to give you that experience. That whatever you say, whatever you think is a creative moment in your life, you are shaping your future. And if you shape your future with the statement, there is never enough, you are creating more of the same experience. And the sad thing about this is that the energy of money, which is really the energy of manifestation, has to follow your commands. So if you are repeating over and over again, there is never enough, it has to supply you with experiences that will make sure that there is never enough. And that's where we get into trouble. So it may be that your experience so far has been that there was never enough. It is not true that there is never enough, and it is not true that there will never be enough. And you need to get this distinction really clear. There has not, in my past, so far, there has never been enough. True, you can say that. I would now like to create more. Can you feel the difference in the energy between those two? There is never enough. My life is a disaster. I'm a tragic figure. I'm in the middle of this awful victim experience. Life is treating me really badly. There is never enough. Compared to, there's never been enough in my life. I would like to experience more. I would like to create more. Can you feel the openness in the energy when you speak that way, compared to the closedness of there is never enough? So those are two different answers to the same question that complement each other. On the one hand, you can simply admit, yes, not enough. I want more. Perfectly legitimate. That's the driving force of human life. We're looking for something more. We want more satisfaction, more fulfillment, more joy, more happiness, more peace, more business, more money, more all kinds of things. Beautiful. And maybe there has never been enough, but in the future, I am open to there being more. Create that openness in your field, your energy field, and the energy of money and manifestation will respond to that. I'm going to go a little further in this because there's a third piece in this, such a fundamental question that it's worth taking some time on. The third piece in this is the gap. So once you open up and you say, I'd like to create more, or I'd like to experience more, I'd like a little more wealth, I'd like to make some more money, whatever it is, you start to open to the more money, more wealth. You've connected with the energy of that. But then there's this very uncomfortable place, which I call the gap. Here you are, you're in the manifestation phase. You've asked for something. I'd like more. But it doesn't usually come immediately. And sometimes there's a whole lot of change because where you are now is in a never enough place. And you've got to become a person whose energy matches more. You've actually got to become that person to experience that match, and then you will have more. And in becoming that person, you have to change. And what does that mean? It means you have to let go of some of the ways you've been. So you're going to change the way you think, the way you feel, the way you act. It might be very dramatic change, or it might be a more simple change. But the problem with change like that is you feel like you're losing a part of yourself. So if you have always thought there's never enough, you're going to lose that piece. You're going to lose the piece that has relied on the thought there's never enough in order to become somebody who has more. And you may feel during that time that you are losing part of yourself. You may feel very sad. You may feel you're in a tragic drama. And then you say, oh my God, there's never enough. And you're back repeating the same thing. So how we manage ourselves in the gap is the most important piece in manifestation, in materialization, in money. How do you manage yourself from where you are to where you want to get to? Because that is what defines your character. It's what defines the energy you receive, and it defines the success that you're able to achieve. I cannot teach you in a session like this how to manage the gap. That's the stuff that I teach, because that happens over days, months, weeks, years. I've just come out of a session where somebody just a year ago got herself into a really difficult financial situation. She'd bought a house that was too expensive for her, couldn't sell her old house. Then she got a new job, and didn't get enough of a pay rise. And the whole thing was really difficult. It took her a whole year to solve it. But because she was persistent and didn't go into reaction and despair and confusion, but kept searching for the energy of what she really wanted, she actually has solved the whole thing. Okay, so it's possible to do it. It took her a year. It was a big problem, and it can take a long time to solve a big problem, but you can do it. And that's what happens in the gap. Okay, so that's the third piece of the answer to this question.